And I'm going to ask everyone to please mute yourself. And we're going to get started. So good morning to those of you who are here. I am very grateful for your being here today. And we'll be talking about gratitude and a whole bunch of other assorted ways to look at Hode, which is the Sephirah for this week. And we'll do that in a few minutes. But first, let's just get here. So we'll spend just a minute or two sitting in a comfortable, relaxed position, and taking a few breaths together as we are giving ourselves this gift of time to be. And so really feeling ourselves supported wherever it is that we're sitting. And without straining, giving ourselves a pat on the back for being here. This is a gift we give ourselves. All of us, me most definitely included. So this is the week of Hode. And Hode can be translated in a variety of ways. We look at it as surrender, humility, splendor, and gratitude gets tied up with all of those traits, all of those character traits. Hode is balanced with Netzach. So last week we talked about Netzach, which is this energetic response. And Hode is that stepping back, that ability to just really see what's happening now and what do I need to adjust if I need to adjust. So there's that balance between Hode and Netzach, just as there is between Chesed, expansive loving kindness, and Gevura, which contains that. So all of these pairs are really interesting. So one of the pieces of definition for Hode that really intrigues me is splendor. You know, like I didn't quite know what's splendor. That's an interesting word that I don't use very often. So I really spent some time looking at that. Splendor is noticing minute details. So we have 3, 6, 9, 10 people on this call. And if you're on gallery view, you will notice that none of us look like any of the others of us. Yet we all have 2 eyes, 1 nose, 2 ears, 1 mouth. There's some splendor in that noticing that difference, that no 2 snowflakes are the same. You know, we marvel at this variety in nature. And I really think that splendor has to do with an appreciation for all of creation. And what came to my mind was Abraham Joshua Heschel's notion of radical amazement. You know, the wonder, just noticing a sunset and wow. And for me, that relates also to humility. Whereas I didn't have anything to do with that gorgeous sunset. All I can do is sit back and really enjoy it. So humility, which is another way of looking at Hode, has to do with a lot of things, but part of it is allowing and quieting so that we can discern whatever it is that is proper action in terms of the Netzach. And there's some modesty involved in, what are my gifts and talents? I can puff myself up about that, but how am I going to use them for the betterment of the world or my little world, whatever. Alan Moranis in Everyday Holiness talks about humility as taking up one's rightful space. So that's, for example, stepping up in a meeting and speaking up if you're somebody who normally holds back and doesn't say much. And conversely, stepping back and allowing space for others if you're one who tends to take up a lot of airtime. It also has to do with really healthy self-esteem. If we have too much self-esteem, we get very puffed up and arrogant. And if we don't have enough, we don't live up to our potential because we don't share our gifts and talents, which we could say are divinely given, with the world. So we need that balance. And that's what humility is. It's not being a doormat, which is sometimes the way it's described. So another way to look at humility is through not being attached to the outcome. And this doesn't mean that we don't engage. It means giving whatever the issue is your all. That's your Netzach part. And recognizing that once you've done your best, you have to let go to clinging to the outcome. Maybe what we want to happen is not going to unfold the way we want it to unfold, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to happen. And maybe it's going to take more time and effort than we imagined, but that only means that we need to be humble and open to other possibilities as to the roots of whatever it is that we consider to be success. So this business of kind of acknowledging what we can do and cannot do, of course, brings to mind to me the serenity prayer. God, grant me the courage to accept the things I cannot, grant me the, I totally have blanked.
I think it's the ability
to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you, Harriet. So all of this sort of gloms together, and I think is all part of Netzach, of Hode. Rabbi Mark Margolius introduced me to a quote from Rabbi Arthur Green about the tension between Netzach and Hode, which I think is important. So I'm going to read Art Green's quote here. The Netzach within us seeks to remake the world, to render everything perfect. It is a great force for goodness that inspires us to go forth and right the world's wrongs, to reform the social order, to fulfill the dream of perfection. Hode is the admission that we cannot do it all, the acknowledgement that we have to accept ourselves as we are and be grateful for life as it has been given to us. Netzach strives for transformation. It is the impatient force within us that believes we can accomplish anything, that reality should be subject to our wise reshaping power. Hode is the other side of wisdom, the self that bows before the mystery of what is as it is, the self who succumbs to reality and rejoices in doing so. So for me, Netzach represents this drive to improve and can be associated with the 6 days of work, which I mentioned last week when we were talking about Netzach. And Hode represents our capacity to experience whatever it is as it is, and that's Shabbat. So the week is Netzach, it's doing, and Shabbat is Hode, it's being. And we need both. So I think today is this very perfect example of Netzach and Hode. Some of our regular meditators are expressing their Netzach because they are downtown at the demonstration for reproductive rights, and good on them. And we're here representing Hode. And I'm going to requote one sentence from Rabbi Green. Hode is the admission that we cannot do it all, the acknowledgement that we have to accept ourselves as we are and be grateful for life as it has been given to us. So it's really important to underscore that acceptance doesn't mean sitting back and checking out. It does mean using our best capacities to discern just how we can individually and collectively contribute to solutions. So for me, there's this underlying piece of acceptance. And we need to be able to accept what is in truth. So that can be our thoughts, our emotions, accepting them, our physical sensations, sounds. It can be even accepting our own limitations and foibles, and maybe the limitations and foibles of others. So in today's sit, we're going to practice acceptance, and it's going to be a guided meditation. So if you really prefer a silent meditation, I invite you to turn off your sound, turn the volume way down. We will be ending at about 11:25. So I invite you to take your seat, sitting in a relaxed yet alert position. And take a few cleansing breaths. Inhaling and exhaling fully and slowly and completely. And again, inhaling and slowly and completely exhaling through your mouth. And one more time at your own pace. So I invite you to take a few moments to notice your physical sensations. You may notice your contact points with the chair or your feet on the floor, Or maybe your hands are touching another part of your body. Just simply notice. And maybe you notice an ache or discomfort someplace in your body. Can you notice that without trying to change it? Just allow it. Maybe you're aware of temperature on your skin. Or the sensation of clothing on your skin. Just noticing whatever it is that you notice. Not evaluating, noticing, being aware. Maybe you're noticing movement in your body as you breathe. Maybe a feeling of fullness or emptiness someplace. Paying attention and noticing. Now I invite you to shift your attention to sounds. Notice what sounds are in your space. You don't need to reach for these sounds. Let the sounds come to you. So the curious thing about noticing sounds is that we oftentimes rush to identify them. And see if you can let go of that impulse. No need to identify the sounds. No need to reach for the sounds. Simply allow the sounds to enter your consciousness. Maybe you can notice sounds layered one on another. And maybe you can notice the silence between the sounds. Again, no evaluating, simply noticing. And now I invite you to see if you can do this with your thoughts. Can you allow thoughts to come and go without attaching to them? To let thoughts arise and float by like a leaf on a stream or a cloud in the sky. As a thought arises, you might say to yourself, oh, thinking, I'm going to come back to my breath now. Simply allowing, and then returning to your breath. We are not our thoughts any more than we are the sounds that we hear. Simply allowing. I invite you now to deepen your breath a little bit. And very slowly and gently begin to bring your attention outward. You may want to wiggle your fingers and toes. And as you are coming back to the room, I'm going to read a poem called Clearing. Do not try to save the whole world or do anything grandiose. Instead, create a clearing in the dense forest of your life and wait there patiently until the song that is yours alone to sing falls into your own cupped hands and you recognize and greet it. Only then will you know how to give yourself to this world so worth of rescue.